Everyone, and welcome to Mythic Argus Guide. I'm just a little bit different. I'm going to actually do a guide for the entire fight for as many classes that I can see and talk about throughout the fight. I normally focus on the tanking, which I will still do, but I want to show and break down how we actually did this fight. So let's go ahead and look at it. So first, let's talk about talents and armor for this fight. I was one of the main tanks. Was not the ball tank. So what I did was I ran the Abyssal Strike, Fallout, Flame Crash, Fracture. I had Sigil of Chains on, it's not needed. You would get more use out of Concentrated Sigil, but it's very minimal. Quicken Sigil still would have been better than Sigil of Chains. Spear Bomb and Last Resort. Now, I don't like Last Resort on this fight. I used it simply because it helped prevent a lot of wipes in Phase 1 and Phase 2 when something went wrong. Phase 3 is a nuisance because you only use it once in Phase 3 and you have to purposely proc it on the 4th scythe. So if I could reliably get away not using it, I wouldn't have. So if you didn't take Last Resort, then you want to use Soul Barrier. And gear wise, that's not the gear set. Now, let's talk about legendaries first. The common go-to for legendaries on this fight is, go back here, go to loot. The common breakdown is Legs and Archimonde's Hatred Reborn. Some other good ones, Boots, not needed. Pridus is wasted. If you're soaking the balls, then Cloak of Fellflame isn't bad, because the balls are shadow damage. And I guess if you want to go DPS, you can get the insignia or the belt, but for your first kill, I'd highly recommend not going those. Now, what I did was, and I'm going to point this out because I don't recommend it, but I was being super cautious. Stat-wise, you want as much mastery as possible and as much avoidance. Blizzard hates me. I have 0 avoidance and all my gear. I have so much gear in my bags, in my bank, and none of it has avoidance at all. Biggest thing you have to watch out for are the scythes if you're main tanking. So it's all about the AoE mitigation, which avoidance is amazing at. So what I did was, let me switch my gear out. And this is kind of mean, but it works, so this is what I did. I ran with the bracers, because their bracers have 675 avoidance. Even though I'm not using the legendary power, I'm not using Soul Cleave at all. But I wanted the avoidance, so I ran the bracers and I used the pants. And then I had a pretty decent Titan Guard that I used. So I wanted mastery anyways, so the mastery on Titan Guard is helpful. And I used the shield at a couple of specific spots, which helped immensely. So normal group setup would be pants and Archimondes. I went with pants and bracers for the avoidance, and then the Titan Guard. So other than that, it's strictly eye level and as much mastery as possible. In this gear set, I'm using 36% mastery. Only 10% haste because the uptime of Fiery Brand with Immolation Aura is not very important. There are certain parts of the fight where you need a Fiery Brand up, so you just hold it. Other than that, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and that's really it. So 20% versatility is also really nice. Now, we killed this yesterday before the artifact boost that we just got today. So everything I show you is before the artifact boost, so it should be easier if you're just starting out. The mechanics is still extremely important, so you still have to do the mechanics. But the DPS requirements should be a lot easier. So let's go ahead and let's go break down Phase 1. So here we are in Phase 1 and Phase 2. I'm going to break this down from 2 different pulls. Our Phase 1 and Phase 2 was normally done really well. On the kill, it was so sloppy that I have to take this Phase 1 and Phase 2 from a prior pull. So first thing I want to point out is the square, the markers. Alright, so where we start is we put a square, you put wherever you want. This is the Phase 2 position. Triangle is where the tree spawns. Nipple is back here behind the boss. This is where the bombs go. And then over here, which you can't see yet, is there's a skull right here and a star over here. Now I'll show that to you in phase 2 as I'm moving out so you can see a better positioning. Basically these two markers over here is for the beginning of phase 3. The tree as well for the tree, and then phase 2 are these two markers. So on the pull, what you want to do for cooldown breakdown as a tank is Demon Spikes for the first 2 Scythes, Fire Brand for 3+, and then for the 4th one, Meta or Trinket, or LR if you still have LR up. So on the pull, I'm going to go ahead and taunt, pull it in here, and then I'm going to spin them. So this positioning is not the same as Heroic. You want to walk them around the circle instead of just rotating them. So I'm going to pull them out, and keep in mind, I'm not going to cast Fiery Brand. With that being said, you have to let your off tanks know not to go ham on the pull because they're going to pull threat and you're going to wipe. As a Demon Hunter, you need to save Fiery Brand to stay alive. So everybody else is grouped up behind the tank, or behind the boss, near the wall. So Demon Spikes for the first one. After the first Scythe, then I use Fiery Brand, and then I use Soul Carver, and then I start the normal rotation. So the new mechanic is the gaze. Basically the spread comes out. The weak aura will be in the comments. For the first 2 gazes, only the melee spread. Range can stay grouped up. So you see the melee spreading out. Now to beat this fight, the most important thing to do is debuff control. And well, honestly it's debuff control. So what's going to happen is a fear is going to come out and somebody has to stand in it or you're going to get stacks. And then a rage is going to come out, which is a circle with like an X through it. And if everybody stands in it, you're going to get debuffs. Both are bad. Now one thing to keep in mind is as soon as rage comes out, if there's anybody on you, there is no delay. You instantly get stacks. So it took us 486 pulls to kill this. And most of our wipes, I would say, is because of this debuff. So they're spreading out here. Right here, as you can see the fear. I mean, somebody has to group up and stand inside of it. And here's the rage. And how we do this is we rotate from my positioning and be counterclockwise. So the rage is always on the inside, and then the fear groups up. Well, everybody groups up behind the boss, the rage stays out. Tortured Rage, that AoE damage is magic damage, so use your Empower Wards for Siphon Power and for damage mitigation. So right here, the weak aura tells us to spread. We have the haste buff and the crit buff, so crit mastery and haste versatility. How we do this is crits left and haste is right, always. I always try to get the crit mastery. Crit for the damage, mastery for, well, the mitigation with Demon Spikes up. So with Fiery Brand and Demon Spikes, 3 stacks will not kill you, will not proc LR. At this point, the off-tank taunts. Everybody grabs the debuff and rotates behind the right leg, and then the rage will come and pick up the buff. So when he scythes and then cones, you don't have to move. Here, I'll show you. So he just did a scythe, and now he's going to do a cone. So everybody's going to rotate right instantly. And for this, you always move right away. If you hesitate, you're dead. And you always move farther than you think you need to. Because if you just hit the edge of it, you're going to die. So we always run farther, and then we rotate back. Now he can scythe right afterwards. So basically it's best practice to stay away from him. So back my mouse cursor is here. But since he scythed and then cone, he will not scythe right away. So we're going to rotate him in a circle around this way. Blights will have to come out behind the group. You do not run over here with Blights because if you get picked with cone, the angle of the cone will kill people. So you want to try to bring it straight back. Alright, so here's the second spread. The melee has a spread, range and healers do not. Right here you see the 2 fears, you have to group on them ASAP. Now the key of these debuffs is you help your neighbor always. Before you move, you help your neighbor. So this one's going to be debuffs and then right into a cone. So you want to spread out and then instantly group back up if you do not have rage. So now we're all grouped up. For the slice you do 3 then 3 and then 2 the rest of the time. So I'm going to grab my buff. This is bad positioning on the buffs. Crit should be over here, haste over here. So we're running from cone. I'm going to taunt the boss. I'm going to walk him backwards and stay along the circle. About this time, I'm going to call for a second potion. Everybody's grouped up. The position is either you're in melee or you have rage, or you have blight. So you're always in melee regardless who you are, unless you have rage or you have blight. So here's the blight. He should go backwards, not sideways. Taunting at 2. Alright, so the next cone, was it the second cone? Third cone? What we gotta do is, we're gonna have buffs, you wanna drop them out of the raid. So you wanna stay grouped up and run out. Now if you get fear and blight, like this person, I think I'm gonna escort him. Yeah, so he has blight, but he also has fear. He cannot be by himself, so I'm gonna stand in the circle and walk him out. Like that, and I'm gonna walk him back in. I just grabbed the first buff I saw. I didn't see the crit behind me when I was playing. So I'm going to taunt, and the cone's coming in too. There's the cone. We're going to move. We're going to walk him around. Power rewards for the rage. So we transition at 70%. Now the trick is for this is you want to push him before the next set of debuffs comes out. Now there's a little trick I'm going to show you on this pull. So most of the time, rarely does this change, but most of the time he's going to cone into a debuff. But if you taunt during the middle of an ability like cone, he will delay it. So since I know we're pushing at 70%, I'm going to wait for the cone. As he cones, I'm going to taunt. And by taunting right there, I delay his debuffs, and the intermission starts. For Bloodlust, by the way, if your DPS is low, you might want to Bloodlust on the pull, and then Bloodlust at the end of the fight. I know our DPS is good enough, we just Bloodlust at the end. So for this part here, you just get in the circle, you make room for the rages. Now if you have Fear and Blight, you just stand on the tank, because the Blight will not kill the tank. But if you push fast enough, that's not an issue. So you don't want to move here until the Scythe actually goes off due to a bug. There's the Scythe. I'm going to go back to square. I got a little misaligned. Alright, so here is the difference. If you don't taunt during the cone or you don't push fast enough, he'll do the bombs and then the debuffs. What that means is you could be escorting somebody with the bomb out, and then they can get rage, and then they can blow up and wipe the raid. With this one, whoever has rage cannot get the bomb. So if you push or you taunt properly, you can't ever get that bad situation. So what I'm going to do, he taunts it too, because I have the buff. So I'm going to try to help the fear targets while waiting for the bomb to come out. Now, if somebody has burst or bomb and fear, they have to walk on top of you. You have to escort them out. The bomb does a ton of damage. So the healer cannot walk out by himself. You have to walk the healer out. If you don't, they're going to die, blow up, and kill the raid. So I'm going to walk on the healer, and I'm going to walk him out. Now what I'm going to do is bring him all the way against the wall. Now I receive a blessing sacrifice from our pally. I'm going to pop meta, demon spikes, because all redirection damage is physical. I'm going to pop empowering wards for the magic damage. And then I'm going to pop my Titan Guard. If you have Archimons, you'll use that here instead. So they all group on you. The 2 burst and the 1 bomb will group on you. Side note, if anybody has rage, so if that burst has rage, they just go back into melee. They don't come out with you. And then we go back. I highly recommend this Warlock portal, by the way, for the healers for bomb. So at this point, you just stay in melee. The other 2 tanks, the tanks that do not have the buff, just switch at 2. I have the buff, so I just stand and I soak all the damage for everybody else. Now these bursts are going to stay in from now on. They can kill you if you're not topped off, so use DS and Empower Wards. Alright, so bomb's coming, so I normally try to come out with my buff to help anybody, but Pope's got the bomb, he's right next to the portal, and he's going to go. After this, all healers sacrifice themselves. So he's going to go. Now, what you do is if you have your Resto Shaman, it's highly recommended to use a Resto Shaman because they have the res totem. If you die to the ticking part of the bomb and not the explosion, the res totem will allow the healer to res, so you don't lose a healer. So if you watch, he's going to die here in a second. He's dead now. At this point, I'm taunting because my buff comes off. And now if you see, Popes is back up because he used the res totem from the Resto Shaman. I cannot emphasize how awesome that is. I'm going to get hit by that scythe because I'm bad. Now me and the other tank who does not have the buff is going to switch. Now this only goes to 40% and then you push. So as you push, everybody groups up and dies as quickly as possible. Whole idea, this gets your potion back off cooldown faster, so you just die. Alright, so let's go ahead and start looking at the phase 3 footage. Alright, so phase 3 is now starting. We're all dead, and he reses us all, and then he's going to kill us all. If you log out as soon as he picks you up, or start to log out when he picks you up, when he kills you, he's going to shoot you across over here, which is actually better. But if you time it wrong, by the way, you actually log out and then you're not in the fight anymore. Because when you log back in, you get put back in down the ring. So when this res comes, it's imperative you do not hit any Shaw going to the tree. So Shaw can be in the tree, we call it out, Shaw in the tree, so people are paying attention. As a Demon Hunter, we can jump in, glide over the Shaw. And by the way, if you just cut a corner, that's all you got to do to res. So here, you're going to see the positioning. Basically, I keep my back to where the skull is, because that's where I'm pulling him. Nobody can be over here, because he's going to scythe before he moves. So you want to interrupt when he's under a second. So I interrupt, and then once you interrupt tanks, this is where the threat starts. So I need to taunt and then do damage, and the other tanks need to hold off damage. So you do not use Fiery Brand yet. So the scythe's going to happen, and then you move. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this soul on purpose. If you're actively tanking and you're not like dying right away, you should pick up souls if they spawn on top of you. So I'm going to grab it with Empower Wards because of shadow damage. Jump out. Now keep in mind the wards, the souls do not give Siphon Power for some reason. They are shadow damage, but they don't give Siphon Power. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to pull the boss. Look at position here. So here is the skull that I mentioned earlier, and here's the star. So everybody groups on star. Melee try to waffle cone it or be safe while DPSing, and these scythes are going to come out. So if the scythes are not moving, you stack on them. If they are moving, you stack between, or stand between. So I'm going to stand on it because it's not spinning. Once they come through, I'm going to run between. By the way, DS for the first two. And then for the third one, I cast Fiery Brand right away, right before the third one goes off with Demon Spikes. So I'm gonna soak that orb. So basically it goes size and then spread. I don't know if you saw that. Basically, let me rewind it because this is very important. So size just went through and then spread. You have to spread out as soon as possible because we wiped probably like 30 times just to that. So spread happens, rage doesn't move, everybody moves around them, and then they find an opening to move. Fear, if you do not have any debuffs or you have fear, you have to help everybody else. So as soon as this happens, you help the fear and you regroup on star. Star is the bait point. For me, for the 4th scythe, we're going to die at 5. There's a lot of strats that work. Some people do 4, we do 5. So for the orbs, so say I have 3 stacks. When I eat my 4th one, 4 orbs will spawn. Tank should be soaking that, but people with like a turtle or a faint can pick them up and should if they're near them. Assuming they don't have chains debuff. So for this one, to proc LR, I'm going to keep Firebrand up, but no Demon Spikes. This is why I Firebrand so late. This will always break or pop LR. So bait points here. So there's LR procced. And here is the first module. Modules can only spawn on people that do not have a debuff or have fear. So if any melee does not have the debuff or has fear, they have to go stand on star for the bait. Then everybody switches and kills it ASAP. So here I'm going to die in the 5th one on purpose. To do that, I have a macro that I click because I don't want to accidentally click it any other time. That removes Demon Spikes and Meta. Because I have lived through the 5th one accidentally so many times. So I'm going to click it, drop my buffs, and die. So at this point, they're finishing the module, and then the boss is going to be moved out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up as many orbs as I can. We are 3 tanking this, so I know they'll be fine without me for a little bit. So I'm going to wait. And then for some reason no orbs spawn on it. It's kind of weird, so I'm going to get as many orbs as I can for the Titan Forge. These orbs will despawn if you don't pick them up, so it's wasted if I don't pick any up. So I'm going to go ahead and res now with 10 stacks. And I'm going to start picking up the orbs. We lost a DPS here. You have enough. We do the... Alright, so much stuff here. There's a 2-chain strat and a 3-chain strat. I highly recommend the 3-chain strat. There's a really hard crossover point, but if you master it, everything else after it is super easy. If you do the 2-chain strat, after you res, you're still going to have a ton of abilities coming in, and it's all about attrition, and it hurts the healers because it's really hard to keep everybody alive. We do the 3-chain strat. So at this point, it's going to be, I'm going to tank first, then the off tank, then the 3rd tank, then the off tank, and then me, and I'm going to hold it for the suicide. So right now the off tank is taunting. So to have enough reses for the tanks, you're going to have 1 spare. And I know this, so I tell the DPS that died to go ahead and res, because DPS is important. We wiped at sub 1% twice at this point. So I'm like, alright, we have a spare res, just go ahead and go get up. So right now is the 2nd bait for the 2nd module. It should be hugging these last module, but we're a little bit farther up. It doesn't make a difference. So pick up these orbs, make sure people don't die. So kill the module while getting the orbs. If you're the 3rd orb tank, by the way, this is all you do. You just get orbs and then tank when they tell you to. So when this module dies, it does exploding damage that will one-shot you and wipe and well just kill everybody. So after the 2nd module, it goes right to a spread. So as you can see, people are starting to go towards mid. I'm trying to escort the fear out so they don't die. So 2nd module to a spread. There's a spread. Help everybody with fear ASAP. And you get to the wall for a dodge. So 2nd module, spread, dodge. So you bring all the fear to the wall. If they're spinning, you stand between. If they're not spinning, you stand on them. That spins. And then we're going to stand where it just was. It was just right here. So I'm going to stand there. And we're good. Now, these chains are starting to come out. Oh, and I missed this, by the way. The first set of chains, you break at the same time. They both worn out together. And then you blow cooldowns. We use Link and a hymn. The second set, we keep them alive. We keep the debuffs up the entire time until they expire. We found that this crossover right here with all these abilities is easier if we don't break them. You just spam heal the two people and you just keep them up. Somebody died, so you don't get to see that, but you normally keep them all up. Alright, so here's the third bait. Alright, so the third tank dies and the off tank is going to taunt again. I'm going to soak balls and help kill the module. We have chains out now. Oh, we still have one chains out. There it is. Okay. Normally they both would have exploded right there, but Jug died and he had it. So at this point, it starts to get a little easier. If you can get to this point and you can res together, this is good. So what we do is right after the third module, we stay grouped up. It's going to be a dodge. So here comes the size for a dodge. Right now you want to maximize damage. You want him sub 30%. So stack on it if it's not moving, and then go between when it is. Now here's how this is done. So as soon as those dice go out, and it says spread, nobody spreads. They stack on the triangle right here ASAP. You don't even wait till the debuffs come out. So they go and they stack. And I'm going to stand right here. So we want everybody to die as quickly as possible. The next module is coming in 6 seconds. They all need to be dead before that. Alright, so they're all dead. And they're going to start a countdown. Somebody else that's not me is going to go 3, 2, 1, res. When you hear res, you hit release, then you run in. If you're already dead, you need to be near the tree, but you cannot hit the shawl. If you hit the shawl, it will wipe. Well, you're going to knock like 3, 4, 5 people away, and it's a wipe. If you're released, you have a 3-second shawl immunity, so once you're released, you can run in. However, if somebody else blows up a shawl, even though you have an immunity, it will still knock you back. So if you're already dead, you just need to be in a position not to hit the shawl. So here I pop meta, Fiery Brand off the bat, because I just need to stay alive until everybody else reses, because if I die right now, the boss resets. So I see 3 souls coming in. Nobody else is alive. He's about ready to scythe me. I have 2 stacks of chains, so I blow all my cooldowns, Empower Wards, DS, Fiery Brand, meta, and I'm going to pop, I think, my trinket here too. Just to make sure I don't die, yeah. So if everybody does it right, they all run into the tree together, and they're all alive. Now he's going to scythe again, and the module's on me. So melee cannot run in front of him until after scythe. So range DPS, you want to DPS this down. There's a scythe, I'm going to jump and get out. This is where we bloodlust. We have 21 stacks of Titan Forge, and we want to maximize damage on the module then on him. So he scythes, I'm going to jump away, and everybody's going to DPS. I'm still going to try to live to 4, but I blew all my cooldowns. So what I'm going to do is call for a Guardian Spirit next. Now I want to show that this is the 4th module. After the 4th module, we have like 30 to 40 seconds of nothing is going to happen. So what people are going to do is just pre-spread, because we know the gaze is coming next. So they're going to pre-spread and just nuke the boss as hard as they can. I call for a Guardian Spirit so I can live through the 4th. Honestly, we could have done 4 probably and been fine, but we want to make sure we maximize better reses. Alright, so I'm dead now. What I should do, and I don't, is I should go pick up some orbs. So we sacrifice a melee once the next debuffs come out. So at this point, I should go pick up as many of the orbs as I can. But instead, I just accept the res right away. So now we're just going to spread for the debuff. And then when the melee with rage is going to go die. J-Force calls it out, so I know someone's going to do that. So we're going to stack up, on the fears as quickly as possible. Help your neighbor. If you don't, you're going to wipe. So help your neighbor get to the stack point. These 2 chains are going to come out right now. We're going to break one and hold the second one. So the healing officer is going to call out, you go break, and then we're going to hold the other. So we're going to try to bait the module against the wall. This is the last module you're going to kill. This is number 5. So we're going to DPS this module down ASAP. I'm going to get out before it explodes. There's the chain proc that we wanted. I'm going to soak the balls. At this point, we don't want the tanks to die because there's no point. Because if they die, they can't help us pick up souls. I think he actually dies though, to be honest. Oh, he lived through 5. He wasn't supposed to, but he did. But we survived fine. But he's not dead, so he can do ball soaking. So at this point, it's just simply DPS the boss. So the last part at this point, if you have enough people alive that you can wipe, is if you don't spread out here. So you spread out, help the fear people, and maximize damage. These chains are going to come out, you don't touch them. And the module is going to come out, you do not touch the module. The more damage it does to it, the quicker it expands to explode. Don't touch it. Kill the boss. I'm going to taunt and bring him out. He only has 3 stacks, but like we don't want him to die, there's no point. So I'm going to pull the boss out, and there he is. With the artifact power buff that just happened, this is going to be a lot easier to hit these breakpoints. You have a little more room for error, but the mechanics still has to get done or you're not going to kill it. This was a very long explanation. There's a ton of strats that are different that work just as well. I found that this one's the easiest. The second chains is okay, people do it, but I find that if you can live through the 3rd chains, like it's literally a DPS for 40 seconds with nothing happening, followed by a spread that you should already be pre-spread to a bait where you kill a module, 1 set of chains, 1 more spread, and that's it, you're done. If you die in the second chains, you're going to have overlapping abilities the rest of the time, and it's a lot harder, it's so much easier to have people die to attrition. So that's the guide. I hope it helps people. There's like 3, 4, 5 weeks left until until pre-patch. So I hope this helped anybody, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and thank you for watching.